Hello and welcome to the first episode of the new North of Cumbria and Northumberland Independence podcast. And if you don't know what that's all about, you've been living in a cave today. No, actually it's the 113th episode of the Scottish Independence podcast. And this time I spoke with Jason Baird, who's been trying to organise something called the National Yes Registry. I think it's quite a worthwhile project, so I'll let Jason explain it to you now, and I'll have a wee word with you at the end. Hi Jason, how's it going?
Oh, it's going fine, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, all right. Busy as usual, but just managed to get back in time to record this one tonight. So sorry for holding you up a bit.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. It's great to be on.
Thank you. It's good to have you on. So what I got you on to talk about is the project that you're involved with at the moment, which is the National Yes Registry. And I think it's a very interesting project. So would you like to tell the listeners what it's all about?
Well, it's really just... what we're trying to do is get together all the existing grassroots Yes groups, and not just the Yes groups, all the groups that have survived the referendum, you know, that were instrumental during the campaign, and try to get them networked in the way that they felt they were networked during the referendum. You know, they felt like that we were all interconnected and we were part of a great big sort of network of Yes groups. But in actual fact, after the no vote, and we realised, you know, the Yes headquarters disappeared overnight, it became apparent that we weren't connected to each other. You know, everything that we knew of each other really came through the Yes headquarters or very local people, you know, each group knowing each other from who was next door to them, really, you know.
Yeah.
So the idea is that, you know, after the no vote, lots of decisions that could have been made about whether we were going to carry on, how we were going to carry on as a movement, things like that, it just wasn't possible to do because we couldn't actually have a forum to talk to each other about it. So it's difficult to find out what other groups were thinking and how they would have liked to go on ahead, and that really fragmented everybody. In the end, everybody ended up making decisions on their own, you know, absolutely by themselves. So the idea of what we're doing now is just collecting everybody together and trying to set up what should have been in place before the referendum started, and also just after. It would have been really handy to have it. So that's what we're doing just now.
So how are you going about it?
Well, it's been really difficult because, as I say, all the groups were totally autonomous, you know, and there wasn't a single list of people that you could call or contact. So really what I did was, just after the referendum, right after the no, I started to contact, me and a few other people started to contact Facebook pages, because that was the best way into trying to find the activist groups that were behind the Facebook pages, and the Yes shops, and the, you know, various, like Women for Indy, all the other groups that were in this. So that's what I did, and it's had to be done really. You know, you find one group and then you ask them, do you know any other groups in your area? Do you have a look in your telephone directory or your contact list and see if they've got anybody? Contact them about us, have them contact us, or we'll try and contact them. And it's just really built up piecemeal over the last year. I mean, there's still groups out there that I'm sure exist, and we don't have any knowledge of them yet. So that's the way it's happened. It just happened bit by bit, and finally we've got about 70 groups listed. And once I got to that number, we said, right, the way forward is we'll do a crowdfund in order to put forward our plans of how we see the Yes Registry developing. Because at the beginning it was really just a list, you know, so that people in Shetland could talk to people in Coatbridge or something if they needed to share something, if they needed access to, I don't know, badge making equipment or just really practical things. That's how it started out. Just for an example, was because I worked in the Yes shop in Largs, we ran out of merchandise, wristbands, etc., you know, t-shirts, etc., because we had festivals all the time. And everything, in order to get wristbands and whatnot, we had to always go through Yes headquarters. Well, everybody was going through Yes headquarters, and it was an enormous logjam by the end of it. We couldn't get any equipment, any gear. So we decided to collect groups that were around us and try to order our own wristbands and our own t-shirts and our own things. And once we did that, you start thinking there's other things you could do. There's campaigning ideas that we could be sharing. There's practical. At the time, it was, you know, we had opened a shop, so we knew tax laws for the shop, best way to go about things for the mundane things like your water charges, things like that. And every other person that was opening a shop seemed to be going through the same reinvention of the wheel again. And so we thought, well, it'd be a great way to share that kind of knowledge.
I mean, it seems like you're pulling and sharing, but in a real way, not in a better together sort of way.
That's right. Oh, I never thought about it like that. Thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, well, really, then what happened is after the referendum, after the no, the headquarters just disappeared, and it felt like all these groups that were out there just kind of suddenly fragmented or were isolated. It's a real double whammy, and that you felt the community suddenly was, I don't know, disrupted. And so once you started thinking about getting everybody together, and it took so long, it's taken like a year to get the information drip, find. By the time you find a group, sometimes they're no longer, they're dormant.
Mm-hmm.
So the time that it's taken to do that makes you start thinking about exactly what it is to maximise this information that we're getting. So the idea then developed into what it's developed into now, which is much more advanced. It's really a kind of a grassroots, collectively owned headquarters. Replacement of the of what the role that Yes HQ had is really to have that, but have it as a collective of all the groups in a forum. They will own the forum, and they will own the National Yes Registry, and they will have a way of putting forward ideas and policies and sharing them with each other, instantly.
Yeah.
By doing that, then a voice of the authentic voice of the grassroots will be heard. If something is of interest to the groups, they will talk about it. They will have access to it, and it will gain a certain authority simply because this is the forum of the actual activist grassroots groups.
Yeah, I mean it's a very, very worthwhile project. But so if we could run through it a bit more in the sense that, okay, if you've got your group, your independent Yes group, and you sign up to the National Yes Registry, what's the next step? What happens?
Well, if anybody's listening to this, the best thing to do is to actually go onto our website, which is nationalyesregistry.scot, and we've made a film there, and it's like a 22-minute long film. If you click on that and watch it, it's in 5 parts, or you can watch it as all in one, 22-minute film, and that explains exactly the concept of what we're doing, and that was the basis of how we did our crowdfunding. And we raised, £9,200 or something to go ahead with what we're doing now. And so the idea is that if an independent Yes group is out there, or a pro-indie, I mean, we have all the groups. We have Women for Indie groups in there. We have RIC. We have Commonweal. We have Yes Alliance. We have groups for ex-soldiers, things like that. Armed forces groups, student groups. The whole range that was in the referendum hopefully will be in the registry. So you just contact us. We, at the moment, are making up a list of groups that we will go around and give a presentation to and have an open discussion with the membership of that group in an open face-to-face meeting. And all questions that get asked, because people are really worried. A lot of people think that it's going to be we're trying to set up a headquarters, and it's nothing like that. All that we're trying to do is create a network of the groups, so that they can support. It's grassroots voice for each of the groups within a forum, and that forum then it will be mutually supportive. It'll be practical, but it will also cover some of the issues that didn't get Yes headquarters wouldn't touch with a barge pole, which was things like BBC bias and things that the SNP and the government as a government find it very difficult to target during a referendum campaign, especially. Is the very things that the grassroots love, and it's what we really wanted to hear and wanted to get on the media and get discussed, but we didn't have a voice during the first referendum that could do that, and this forum could be the way to organise a voice so that stuff can get heard and decided upon.
I was going to say that, do you think official Yes Scotland missed a trick not doing something like this? But I suppose actually, did they miss a trick not doing it twice before and after the referendum? Like you said at the beginning, they just sort of disappeared, which was slightly unusual at the time.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I am highly critical of Yes Scotland, but it's afterwards, it's after the referendum that I'm critical of them about. Because at the beginning, I mean, there was no grassroots at the beginning. You know, the grassroots needed to be seed funded, it needed to be pump primed, or whatever you would call it, by the political parties and Yes pro-indie establishment, and that's what they did. And so the people who were in Yes Scotland were like appointed really and paid for by the political parties. So they gave the merchandise, they made the decisions for logos and all this kind of stuff. But as the Yes shops popped up and as the Yes pro-Yes groups popped up in the grassroots, they approached Yes Scotland, and Yes Scotland gave them gear and whatnot, but they didn't put them into contact with each other. And that was the big mistake that they made. But it was the first time we fought the referendum, so at that time there was no other way of doing it because the grassroots didn't exist. But now, after the at the peak of the vote of the referendum, the grassroots was wild. It was enormous, and it was everywhere, and it had grown so far away from Yes headquarters. You know, the things that we were campaigning on, the things that we felt were important, the things that we were telling people, and the way we were getting people to vote yes were so distant from the way the headquarters perceived things, because they were still the kind of, I don't know, they were appointees of the political parties. So the grassroots sort of formed into this thing. After the referendum, I think the grassroots scared a lot of people. You know, whichever establishment you were from, I think the grassroots scared a lot of people, and I think it was better. A lot of people felt relieved that, you know, it kind of dissipated in the manner that it did. And I think that was great things came from it. It's fabulous that like 100,000 people joined the SNP, and 10,000 the Greens and 10,000 SSP, and you know, these people that moved from the grassroots into party politics, they moved into party politics through the Yes movement. And I don't think they didn't actually realise that they were moving into party politics until the no vote. And they looked up and there was nothing else for them to do. And they said, what am I going to do? How am I going to carry on the fight? I'll join the party. It was massive. The surge was fabulous. But there's, you know, 4 million people out there still, not party political people, people who haven't decided to join a party or are that interested in politics, but they are open to change, to being changed. And I think the mechanism for that is the same mechanism. It's the same kind of conveyor belt that took the 100,000 to the SNP and to the other parties, that we need to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, we just need to keep using it.
And people might not want to join a party, but they'd be happy enough to join a group. I've never joined a political party in my life, but I've joined various groups here and there, and it's another way in. It's that thing people have to realise. You know, even if you don't take an interest in politics, politics still takes an interest in you, and it's when you sort of figure out that there's other people with similar interests or similar opinions, and you see what they're doing, what they're involved in, that can also be a big motivating factor to get you involved.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about it was, I mean, the amazing thing about the referendum, and it was the same with me, because I've never joined a political party. I never will join a political party, but I am an activist, you know, and I care about my community, and I care about Scotland and the best way forward. The Yes movement gave that voice to people. It was a really new experience to have a voice that got you heard, was important, and also it was non-party political. So that's where I fear that a lot of the movement that feels party politics isn't for them has kind of drifted away. And this registry is like a way of keeping a formal setup there that people can tap into quite easily. You know, they can be part of a member of a group. I mean, it's not just for non-party political people. I mean, one of the big advantages of it is that the groups are made up of people from the SNP, from the Greens, from SSP, from all manner of groups. And when they meet up as a group in a pro-independence gathering like that, it re-establishes and sort of plays down any tribalism that happens naturally by party politics, you know. And so it helps to keep us together. And I mean, now that the Holyrood election's coming up and Rise is coming, and you can feel that there's some little fractious stuff happening at the edges between the parties